Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here from the Meaford Church of Christ, and this is the view from the pew. Now, look guys, as long as there have been people on planet Earth, there have been other people for them to get upset with or to get upset with them. And then there have been still other people who would pull up a chair and get out the popcorn and watch the drama unfold as, person A and person B hash it out over whatever offense is the big one at the moment. Okay, that is a common human problem, whether we call it being a busybody, whether we call it being a gossip, or both, or all of, whatever you want to call it. That's something that's gone on as long as people have been around. All right, what's interesting these days, and I don't know if interesting is the right word, but these days, through the power of social media, we can take that common human problem and we can crank the volume to full blast. Okay, so now, I don't need to go to my friend and complain about how my neighbor, always throws his grass clippings onto my property. I can go to my friend's list and I can tell thousands of people or hundreds of people about my grievance or my perceived grievance or my imagined grievance or my totally fabricated grievance. And then all of those people can get off on the drama of, this situation that has nothing to do with them. All right, and they can do it on a global scale. So I can get upset over something that someone said or did that's, not in my county, but not even in my country or in my same hemisphere. And so, you take this human propensity to get off on the drama of others, and you put that in a social media situation, and bad things are bound to happen. Okay, now, let me first, I can already hear the rebuttal coming. Yeah, but look, if so-and-so does a jerk thing, or if this guy does something wrong, then, hey, he should take his lumps. He knows this is a world where everyone's got a camera and where everyone can see whatever you say or do. And yes, that's true, okay? Bad things tend to happen if you make bad decisions. Fair enough. However, I don't really think that the sort of social media, online outrage culture that is so prevalent right now is a very healthy or good way of doling out those consequences. Okay? It just isn't. And I've got a number of reasons that I feel like this is not an appropriate or effective or helpful use of social media. All right, now let me add one little comment here. I'm not talking about two people who are having a reasonable discussion of, some political position or a religious discussion about, something they agree or disagree on, or an atheist and a believer. All of those debates and discussions, that's fine. Right? Now, they should be engaged in with reason and with respect. That's kind of a given. I'm not really talking about that, okay? I'm talking about, somebody, does something that, granted, maybe the wrong thing, okay? Maybe they commit a traffic faux pas, or, they say the wrong thing, they misspeak, and somebody gets offended by it, and now they just create this mob online who's going to go after this person, right? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a reasoned, careful disagreement or debate between two people. Okay, so why do I think this is not very helpful and not a very appropriate use of social media? Well, number one, because you don't know all the details, okay? Over and over again, these kinds of things turn out to be wrong. All right, everyone jumps on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever and, just tackles this problem and just calls this person who, has now become the target, if you will, everything they could think to call them and how terrible they are, and then they share their address and phone number so that people can call them and harass them from all over the place. And then half the time it turns out that you didn't have all the details to begin with because you're not intimately associated with this situation. All right? You don't know why that person said that. You don't know what their family situation is. You know nothing about this. All right, but you've decided to be outraged and join this mob on usually Twitter. Twitter tends to be the place that this most often happens, although there are good examples of this kind of thing happening on Facebook and I suppose Instagram, although maybe not so much. But this is one of the key problems with this whole outrage mentality is you don't know. And Lynn, think of the examples, the MAGA hat teens. We had the restaurant manager who asked someone to leave because they came into the restaurant past closing time, that was fired because people on Twitter decided that it was racism that motivated this, even though they had no reason to think so. We had an incident not too far from me. I'm here in Meaford, Ontario. A couple of towns over, there was a story about a lady who wasn't, but the story was this lady wanted to breastfeed in a restaurant. She was asked to leave, like go to the bathroom or a back room or something. And that was the story that went out. And it turns out, once again, it was totally wrong. All right, and you know, we could go on and on and on. And if you have good examples, you know, feel free to share those down in the comments. But the fact is, you just don't know all the details, okay? And taking action when you don't know the details is going to be a bad idea. And in general, these social media stories, we don't have access to the details. We don't know. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, it's often bullying instead of reasoning. All right, if you genuinely disagree with me or someone else about something, hey, I'm all for you coming to me and saying, look, Kevin, I disagree, and here are the 5 reasons why. Okay, and maybe I'll respond by saying, well, those 5 reasons are, you know, some of them are worth considering, some of them aren't. We can have a dialogue about that. All right, but that's not how the sort of online outrage culture works. That's not how the Twitter mob functions. It's an effort to browbeat a person into submission. It's an effort to force a person to toe the party line or to, you know, hold a certain belief or engage in a certain behavior because we all said so, and there's a lot of us, and so you have to listen. All right? That's just bullying. It's not reasoning. It's not anything meaningful. It's just being a jerk. Okay? And there's some great examples of people who have handled this well, and there are some people who have handled it not so well. But a recent example, Joe Rogan made some comment about people who have transitioned, so male to female, and then have gone and fought in a ring with a genetic female. All right, the fact that I even have to say that is nuts. But anyway, Joe Rogan said that should not happen. Okay, it's not fair. It's not right. Well, people lost their minds, and all of these people on social media just went after him. All right, and what he said about it was, and so I watched him in an interview, and someone said, well, what did you do? He said, nothing, I just ignored them. Right? And it turns out that's the best response. Just, who cares what somebody says on Twitter? Right? Another good example is Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais told some joke, and I don't know what the joke was, I can't remember anymore. And look, I'm not a Ricky Gervais fan, so the likelihood that the joke wasn't funny is pretty high, and the likelihood that it was a little offensive is also pretty high. All right, I don't really care about any of that. But again, everyone on some social media platform, likely Twitter, you know, decides to go after Ricky Gervais for being, I don't know, racist or homophobic or Islamophobic or whatever one of the obics you want to pick up. Okay, and they all, you know, freak out and start sending him messages. And Ricky Gervais responded by saying, you know, if I had $1 for every person I've offended, ... oh wait, I do. Okay, and that part I appreciate, right? And honestly, I don't even care what it was that Ricky Gervais said. Okay, I probably disagree with it. All right. But I can tell you, I'm not going to go on Twitter and try to get a bunch of people to agree with me and tell Ricky Gervais what a bozo he is. All right? And part of it is I just don't care enough. And if you care that much, you probably need to find something more significant to do with your time. All right? Now, what exacerbates this problem, especially in some of the examples that I gave earlier, is when a business takes it seriously. Right? The coffee shop manager that was fired because the owner of the coffee shop listened to everybody freaking out on Twitter. Right? A good start if you're a business person is don't make decisions based on Twitter ever. Okay? And in that case, of course, they were wrong. But on the other side, even if you really legitimately feel some offense about this, okay, right? So you're offended. I may have said something in this video in the last 5 minutes that's offended someone. I didn't say it for that purpose, but I really don't care, right? And no one else does either. And trying to find people that care, get a life. Okay, number 2, it's bullying instead of reasoning. Number 3, the motivation is always or nearly, let's just go with always. The motivation is always wrong. All right, when you're trying to call someone out on social media, that's not about, I have a legitimate grievance with you and I want to resolve it. That's not how you do it. If that was really your motivation, you would find a way to reach out to that person individually and talk this out and figure it out between two people. By the way, that's exactly what the Bible says. And it says your motivation for that is the benefit of the person you're going to. So if someone has done something that was really offensive, really hurtful to me, maybe even they wronged me, right? I have a legitimate grievance. What I'm supposed to do with that is go to that person and talk to them because it benefits them. All right? But when you go on social media and try to gather a gang of people together to pile on this person, the motivation for that is, my pride is hurt and I'm going to get that guy or that girl, right? I'm really going to put them in their place. And that's not healthy. And in fact, God says that's not your job. Right? God says, I'm the judge. I'll worry about judging and doling out punishment eternally. And by the way, the next point here is that we have a system in place called a justice system. Okay, it's literally for doling out justice when it needs to be. And so if you have a real problem with someone where they have literally wronged you, call the police and deal with it through our justice system or file a lawsuit. And again, deal with it through our justice system. That's what it's for, right? Facebook is not designed for that. Okay, and let me add here that there's a character flaw inherent in doing that. Even in the description that I gave at the beginning, where I have a problem with someone and I go and try to gather sort of a little posse who's on my side and sympathetic to me, and then go and address it. That's called cowardice. Right? That is the definition of being a pathetic weenie. Okay? If you have a problem with someone, you go and talk to that person directly. And if you can't, sorry, I'm not, right? I can tell you this. I'm a minister, as many of you know, and I'll have people come to my office and say, Kevin, do you know about this, or do you know about that, or this person did this to me, or that said that to me, and do you know this person's going here or doing this? And my response is always the same. Have you talked to that person about it? Because if you haven't, I'm not doing anything about it, right? That's the way you're supposed to deal with it. And if you are not going to deal with it in the way that God mandates, then don't bring me into your problem. All right. Now, if things have escalated to a point where you say, I've tried to get help through this method and that method, me and, I talked to them and they got even more angry at me, and I brought someone else and we talked to them, there's an escalation that may have to take place. But that's not the way we normally do it. We try to secretly go and get some people on our side first, and that's not helping anyone. Okay. And so number 3, and actually number 4, is the motivation is wrong, and it's not your job to exact justice. We have a justice system for that. And then finally, number 5, you are letting yourself be manipulated. Okay, when you found out about that story, why do you think it was shared? Why do you think everyone was talking about it? Right? We have a media culture right now where, honestly, they're in a tough spot. I get that, right? Mainstream media is trying to compete against the newest, avenues of media, social media, YouTube, Facebook, all of that, and they're frankly losing the fight. Okay, and so they're desperate to do something to get some attention. And the way they're finding to do that, right? And by the way, even the alternate sources of media, they know that if they say somebody's offended, somebody's freaking out, everyone on Twitter's mad about this, it's clickbait, and you're falling for it. Okay, so when you see the story about the person that, parked the wrong way or said the wrong thing, or, they made racist comments or homophobic comments or sexist comments, you know, usually those terms these days are not used to actually describe what they're meant to describe. They're just used to describe someone I disagree with. Okay, so that's number one. But number two, those terms are buzzwords. They're made to make you click that link. They're designed to get you all hyped up. And so you're just being manipulated. It's not healthy. And don't let news agencies do that. I have to tell you, there's a talk radio station I listen to, and I've called them on multiple occasions and said, this is not news. Find something worth talking about. Okay? Because they're so desperate. They've got to fill 24 hours a day with something sensational. And frankly, something sensational isn't happening every minute. Okay, so they're desperate for something to talk about. And a lot of times that means they try to get attention in inappropriate, unhelpful, even toxic ways. All right. Look, perhaps the worst thing about online outrage is it's a lie we tell to ourselves, right? I can click that link, I can hit that share button, I can, give a 140 character little scathing rant, and then pat myself on the back for what a good person I am for being upset about the injustices in the world without doing anything to actually deal with those injustices, right? And so instead of being outraged about the latest whatever that's going on online, right? Instead of trying to pat yourself on the back for, hitting like, right? Literally click a mouse. That is not something to be proud of. Okay? Instead, why don't you spend that time and energy in ways that really can make a difference? Right? Don't post a picture of a hungry person on Facebook and then whine and cry about how bad the world is. Go volunteer at the food bank. Right? How about even this much, which is more than many people do. When you go grocery shopping next time, buy some stuff to help feed those people. All right? That's a way you can really do something instead of just virtue signaling online. Right? Don't complain about kids today. Go and mentor some. I can guarantee you, now you will have to get a vulnerable sector check, but I can guarantee you that your local school would love some extra volunteer assistance. Right? So if you're really concerned about the kids growing up today, go and do something about it for real instead of just share a post online about it. Right? Volunteer at the library or in an after-school program. There's all kinds of ways that you can actually make a difference. Right? And if you have something to get off your chest, take Buckley's. Right? Don't go and put a rant on social media. Right? Kind of like what I'm doing right now. Okay? If you want to talk, I can promise you that there are people at your local nursing home who haven't had anyone come and talk to them in days or weeks or perhaps even months. And so if you want to make a difference in the world, why don't you actually do something that will make a real difference? And if you want to be outraged, if you just really want to be outraged, here's what I challenge you to do. Go and read the New Testament and see what kinds of things really made Jesus angry. Okay, because it's not wrong to be angry. It's just wrong to be angry at inappropriate things. So go and look at the things that made Jesus angry and see if that's the same stuff that makes you upset. And if it is, hey, that's good. But I dare say that for most of us, it won't be. And we'll realize that there are things we need to change about our own character. Okay? And so rather than jump on social media and whine and cry about something or join the next Twitter mob, turn off the computer, go out and do something that really can make a difference. And that's the view from the pew.